Patrick Murphy, good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Gary.
Good to have you. And one thing we know about the Super Bowl, when it ends, that officially marks the end of football season. It also means that softball season's coming up just in a few days. You can mark your calendar by it. Super Bowl over. Alabama softball set to crank up. You had your fan day and scrimmage this past Saturday, and we know that at a lot of places that might not be that big a deal, but at Alabama it was slammed out there at the softball stadium this past Saturday.
Yeah, the Booster Club decided that, they didn't know quite how to we decided to do free food. So they weren't sure because we didn't know how many people would show up, but they gave out a little coupon when you come in the door, and they ran out of food coupons within 7 minutes.
That's never good.
No, and when I drove up about 10 o'clock, there was probably 30 people waiting. The gates didn't open till 11, so it was a great turnout. Basically, it all depends on the weather when we do anything outside.
And it was beautiful.
But they were out there in full force, and we had a great day.
Did you send the staff out, somebody to pick up some pizzas for everybody?
Well, we'd done that 2 years ago, but we didn't this year.
It was a fun day, and it kind of is the official kickoff of softball season, but it really gets started, this coming weekend down in Orlando at the UCF Classic. I'm looking at that right now, hosted by the Knights of Central Florida, but a really good field. Fordham, Rutgers, James Madison, Liberty, of course, yourselves. I know your style. You always want to just jump right into the fire and test your team right off the bat, and you're doing it again this year.
Well, we played Fordham first. They were in an NCAA regional last year. Central Florida, they went up to Florida State and won, I think, 2 games in their regional, played for the championship. And they're in the top 20. James Madison is ranked in the top 25. They hosted a regional. So 3 of the 5 teams that will play played in postseason. And the thing that worries me the most is the first 2 teams we play both have senior pitchers that are very good. Fordham has a senior, and Central Florida's senior was actually a first-team All-American. So usually when you go out and play that first couple weekends, the pitchers are way ahead of the batters.
Right.
So we're going to have a tough Friday for sure.
You finish up that tournament, you come right back to Tuscaloosa and turn around and go to Birmingham to play UAB before another tournament in Atlanta, the Panther Invitational. You'll finally be home in Tuscaloosa the February 24th versus Troy, and then you have the Easton Bama Bash and the Easton Crimson Classic back-to-back. So by the time you get into SEC play, your team is going to be really tested.
Yeah, and that the tournament at home with Arizona, Tennessee, and Marshall, those are 3 very, very good teams. Tennessee's in the top 10, Arizona's in the top 15, and Marshall, I wouldn't doubt if they're in the top 25 eventually. So, Arizona brings a different style from the Pac-12, and we all know about Tennessee. The reason why we're playing them in a tournament is we don't get to play them in the SEC. So they decided to, save some money actually and just drive to Tuscaloosa to play in the tournament. And they get some good games as well, so it's kind of a win-win for both of us. But we'll see, lefty pitchers, we'll see righty, we'll see a lot of movement, we'll see a lot of speed. And, to get us ready for the SEC, that's what you have to do.
Well, let's talk about your club. And I got to be honest with you, Murph. I know the SEC is just a juggernaut in softball, but I look at your team from last year, and I see Alabama pick 4th. In the preseason, and I did shake my head just a little bit. It's a compliment to the conference. Not that 4th is bad, but, I'm used to seeing you guys pick, 1, 2, or at worst 3, and the fact that you're picked 4th behind your in-state rival Auburn, I think maybe that's a nice little nugget for you to hold up to your team as far as motivation is concerned.
Yeah, it is, and, it's we're picked 4th and we're ranked 5th in the country.
Exactly.
So it tells you SEC softball right now, and I would put us against any other sport, in terms of national prominence. We have 9 in the top 25. 11 teams are getting votes. So only 2 teams in the entire conference aren't getting votes for the top 25. So we had a couple of media out there the other day, including WVUA, but they asked if it was the toughest year ever. And, I've said that almost every year since I've been here about the SEC. But there's no way in hell that, if you have 4 out of the top 5, this isn't the toughest year. So just with so many teams having a lot of people back, We have 12, like you said. It's just it was a young year last year, and Tennessee has almost everybody. Georgia has a bunch of people back. LSU has a bunch of people. Auburn has a bunch of people. It's just going to be a free-for-all. And the way I described it was every weekend that we play in the SEC, it's just like a super regional. You're basically hoping to win 2 out of 3. And you don't want to get swept, but it is very, very difficult to sweep the other team because, it's just the competitiveness, the athletes, the coaching, everything. It's just very difficult to get a sweep anymore on a weekend in SEC play.
I'm visiting with Alabama head softball coach Patrick Murphy. You can follow him on Twitter, by the way, and I know many of you do, but it's very easy. At UA Coach Murphy is how you can follow Coach on Twitter. Let's break down this roster, and I want to get to McClinney in a moment, who arguably is the best player in the country, but we know how important pitching is. You return Alexis Osorio, who was fantastic for you as a freshman. I assume she'll be your number 1, but Sydney Littlejohn didn't complain much. We didn't hear much about it, but we know she wasn't 100% last year. She should be back at full speed in the circle. You've added some arms. Just talk about your pitching staff, beginning with Osorio, and how strong you think it can be.
Well, I know you got to see us a lot last year. And at the beginning of the year, to tell you the truth, we weren't sure what we had in her. And we went down to South Alabama, and it was the first game of the year. We were down 1-0. They got the bases loaded, 1 out, and I brought her in, and she struck out the side on like 6 pitches. And we went on to win 2-1, and you could just feel the difference when she was out there. And she just continued to do that all year long. And, what she did against Oklahoma in Super Regionals was one of the best pitching performances I've ever seen from a kid in an Alabama uniform. Beat them 2 out of 3, shut them out the second game, had to come back, pitch another game. She was just unbelievable. She's back, as like you said, Sydney, and she did have ankle surgery like a week after we ended last year. So hopefully she's back to 100%. And you're right, she wasn't anywhere near 100% last year, but we needed her, and I think she knew that, and we postponed the surgery, hoping that she would get through her sophomore year, and she did. But she's back. And then Maddie Moore from Winfield, which a lot of people in West Alabama will know of. She's pitching. She's a left-handed freshman, and it's just like every other freshman that come into college. She's got to deal with 9 hitters in a lineup instead of 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And it's basically how you react to the adversity that's going to frame your success. And like yesterday in a scrimmage, she gave up a 2-run home run, but she came back and she got out 2 All-Americans back-to-back after the home run. And I was really proud of her for that, because a lot of kids would have folded and given up, 4 or 5 runs. She only gives up the 1 shot, but comes back and gets the next 2. So she's just learning, and we're going to put her in situations so she can succeed. But I think it's really, really nice to have a lefty on the staff again, because we haven't had one since Charlotte Morgan.
Indeed. It always gives teams trouble, particularly when you got 2 strong righties ahead of them. Lineup-wise, and I guess this is why I know the SEC's strong, but I guess that's why I scratched my head when I saw Alabama 4th. And I know you will probably blush when I say this, because you don't want to build it up too much, but your lineup looks loaded. It begins with McClinney, the senior center fielder from Mortimer Jordan, who's a Player of the Year candidate. Grantham comes back off of injury. Turner returns. Runyon is back. Case is back. Lafayette's back. Hawkins. Yeah, you Hawkins is back. Yeah, you look loaded to me lineup wise, Coach. Do you agree, or are there some holes there that you know about that I wouldn't be able to see?
Well, yesterday we did something we call Get to Know Me, and it's a sheet that every kid fills out, and they tell me what their favorite pitch is, what their favorite place in the lineup would be, and give me their lineup if we played today, 1 through 10. And it's just it's something that it stays between the coaches and the player. And so I usually budget about 5 to 10 minutes for this. And after 15 minutes, some kids were still scratching out names, trying to do a lineup. And we have 18 players on the roster. We have 3 pitchers, so that means 15 position players. And I tell you what, it was a difficult thing for a lot of them to do because they thought they had their lineup already, done, and then they thought, oh my God, I forgot so-and-so. So then they had to do it again. And it's a great problem to have because we have so much depth. And I literally could have, Runyon could play 4 positions in the infield. Chandler Derrick could play 6 positions, all 3 outfield, 3 in the infield. I've got 2 really good catchers. We've got 2 good first basemen this year. So it's going to be, and I told him, I said, everybody in this room is going to win a game for us this year. I have no doubt about that. You just have to be ready for your opportunity. And when your opportunity comes, you take advantage of it. And that's how you get more playing time. So, I just truly believe in all 18. We added a transfer from Bob Jones High School, Sydney Booker. She's another kid, she could easily start her fair share of games and probably will. She's a very athletic middle infielder, third baseman. So it's just to write out the lineup is going to be a difficult chore.
I know as this sport has evolved and so many more teams have gotten better, not just in the SEC but around the country, you've worked hard. I know you've had power teams in the past. You've had teams that were great on the bases in the past, but I know it's been important to you to have a blend of the two where you feel like you can outpower people if you have to. You can manufacture runs if you have to. We saw it last year. It looks like you've got another club this year that is going to be able to win in different ways against different types of pitchers and different types of teams. And I know to make it all the way to Oklahoma City, that's what you got to have.
Yeah, and, this is the first year that we could have a lineup with 8 lefties. If
Holy cow.
Yeah. The only spot that will always be a righty is catcher because we've got our two regular catchers are right-handed hitters and the 2 backups are right-handed hitters. So we literally could trot out 8 lefties in a row and put a righty in the 9 spot if we wanted to. And we've never been able to do that. So just for, to face a righty with a curveball with 8 lefties is very difficult. Because there's just so many times you can jam a left-handed hitter before you throw one right over the plate. So that's exciting. We also have 9 green light girls. So 9 of the 15 batters, they have the green light anytime they want to go, first or second pitch. And we've never had that many. The most we've had, I think, is 7. So we've got a really good blend of pop, speed, people that get on base. We've got a couple really fast, primarily slappers, but they can hit away. So like you said, we try to, basically mix it all in and not let one pitcher dominate one part of the game.
You mentioned Sydney Booker, your transfer originally from Madison, from southeastern Louisiana. Maddie Moore, the freshman pitcher from Winfield. But you've got a pretty big freshman class. Talk about the other newcomers on your squad.
Yeah, they're going to be very good, I think. We've got a freshman from Hattiesburg, Reagan Dykes, who could be our best hitting catcher we've ever had. She can throw, but she can hit as well. We've got 2 kids from Texas that are both throw right, hit left. They've got some speed, but both of them also have some pop, and they hit first. They don't slap first. Very athletic, Mary Schroeder and Mary Kranick. And then we have, which could be one of our best power-hitting kids we've ever had from Vestavia Hills, Caroline Hardy, first baseman. And she's been hitting the ball really well in practices. So them plus Maddie, we could have a really good freshman class.
Wrapping up our conversation with Alabama's Hall of Fame softball coach, Patrick Murphy. Before I let you go, Coach, just a couple more things. I do want to touch on the rivalry with Auburn. Alabama has dominated through the years. We know that, but Clint Myers comes in. Auburn has elevated their program. Last year, you were just, an incredible comeback by Auburn away from sweeping them at their place. And then, of course, you lost to them in the SEC tournament. Now, unfortunately, this year, the way that the schedule falls, you don't get to face Auburn, I think, in the regular season. But still, this rivalry, is it good for? I know it's good for Auburn to elevate their program. Is it good for Alabama, too, that they have taken the steps to get to where they're at?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's a win-win for both sides in any sport when they're both good. You know, the media attention, the fan attention, it goes through the roof. It already is, but when both sides are good, it really elevates it. And, you know, our SEC schedule, it really kills us when Vanderbilt doesn't have softball, so it's an odd number of teams that have softball. So our scheduling woes are terrific, and you drop 4 teams from each year that you play, and this was the year that Auburn wasn't, and you know Tennessee is one of them that aren't on the schedule. So next year you would pick them back up, and they finally come to Tuscaloosa. It seems like it's been forever that we played them in Tuscaloosa. So, but no, I think it's good for softball. You know, our state has come so far, and you literally could say that, you know, this is one of the best states in the country to play softball because we have so many good teams in Division I just in our little state of Alabama. So it's fun to watch somebody that's been here for 20 years how this state has grown so far in the sport of softball. Indeed,
and that's what I want to wrap up with. You know, finally, when you got here, you were playing at the, you know, Sokol Park and Bowers Park and so forth. You build a facility. You see Alabama really start to catch on, but still, it wasn't what it is now in the SEC. Even on the West Coast, where it had been so strong, the fans didn't follow it the way they do now. When did you know? Was there a point where you said, man, this sport is going to take off and be a television sport, be a national sport, a fan sport? Was there a point where you saw it happening and said, this thing's really going to blow up all over the country?
I think it was one year, and it might have been like 2006 or 7, where we hosted our first Super Regional. I think it was 2006. And it was another round of games because we had hosted regionals, and I was really worried that not many people would come back the next week. The place was packed. And that year they started televising a lot of the super regionals.
Right.
And the ratings were great. And I thought, you know, this we had a chance. And every year since then, you know, last year softball beat college baseball by 35%.
Isn't that something?
And the television rating. So it's across the country. And our attendance, if we had been listed in college baseball, our attendance would have been 21st in the country among all college baseball teams.
Holy cow.
We were first in softball, but we beat 4 SEC baseball programs in attendance, which was really cool. And people just, you know, like I just got an email from my ticketing lady, Beverly Chandler, and we're already up to almost, it's a 575 Brickyard season tickets sold, but our goal was 600. So the bowl has been sold out since before Christmas, but now our goal was to get 600 Brickyard, and last year we had 550. So I think we're on our way to meet the goal. So it's so much fun to see that many people at a softball game, and I know our players appreciate it, but I want everybody to know that I appreciate it as well.
It's been phenomenal. Of course, much like Nick Saban in football, the only problem, Coach, is you got to feed the monster every year.
That's right.
You don't get to Oklahoma City, and it's a bad season. But it all cranks up this coming weekend at the UCF Classic down in Orlando, Florida. Thank you for your time, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Gary.